R4 Daniel Filimoni and Josh Williams joining us this afternoon. Yes, great. They're going to talk about the RSE Skills Recognition Framework Project. R4 Daniel Filimoni is a Pacific Transformation Lead with Muka Tangata, and Josh Williams, the Head of Consulting Skills Group. And they're already next to me. Welcome. Put your hands together. These two. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Clearly I'm not Daniel Filimoni, or maybe that's not so clear. He couldn't be with us today, so I'm John Hinare. I'm an Engagement and Partnership Lead with Muka Tangata. I'll be doing half as good a job as Daniel would have, but now introduce Josh. Thank you.
Kia ora, John. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Kia ora, talofa, bulavanaka, malawa lelei, kia orana. There are many I do not know, but I'm welcoming you all in your home languages. Thank you for a bit of time. For those that were here at the employer panel, Tahu from Hortis dropped some heavy hints that someone was having a crack at a skills framework to credentialise the skills of RSE workers through the RSE experience so they can take that forward into their various walks of life. It's true, and I want to acknowledge Muka Tangata, John, Jeremy, Erin, of course, who you heard from before, who I think both with his regional Labour governance group hat and his Muka Tangata hat has heard the story quite a few times about the need for our RSE workers, along with the financial dividends, for us also to be able to capture that skills dividend that they're also gaining through their work, and particularly those that come back and back. There is also official processes, as many will know. NZQA, funded by MFAT, is leading a process called the Pacific Qualifications Recognition Framework to really stitch together in a pan-regional sense how we can credentialise, recognise, reward the skills that people are gaining. Not just while they're here, before, during and after. There's a circularity of this concept, there's a reciprocity of this concept. So that was our challenge. And the commitment to us, so who the hell am I? I'm Josh Williams, I'm the Head of Consulting at Skills Group. We're New Zealand's largest private training establishment. We are also a not-for-profit charitable trust. We've run a vocational education consultancy for over a decade in Southeast Asia, the Pacific region, but latterly mostly here in New Zealand. The commitment and the challenge that we are given is that, what we build is inclusive of employer and worker voices. That obviously we talk to employers to capture what you're needing and wanting, but also moreover that the skills that we're capturing are going to genuinely help those RSE workers into the future, given their various walks of life. We've had a bit of a three-step process. The first thing I did was engage two of my favourite NZQA nerds to scour the frameworks. We looked at the scope of the visa, but we also looked at an overarching framework that Muka Tangata has developed for skills to look at transferable and technical skills. And then we've looked for counterpart credits and standards on two frameworks in particular, Samoa Qualifications Framework. Thank you to Pa'i Peter Paialua, the CEO of SQA, and also the Vanuatu Qualifications Framework. Thank you, Lesbeth Jimmy, Acting Chief Executive of VQA, and their respective qualifications teams. Good news, lots exists. Second thing though, things take time. The vision here is a reciprocal framework. So if you achieved, let's say, a standard on the New Zealand framework, that at the very same time, that would light up on your framework at home too, or the regional framework that is Pan-Pacific. But that will take time. So what can we do now? What can we do that's tangible? Is it possible that industry is faster than government? Yes. Is it possible or true that many of the brands sitting in this room individually and collectively are much more powerful and important than NZQA, all due respect? Yes. If industry was to stand behind this and endorse a system of digital badges, we could give something tangible and visible now. And we could make it digital because guess what else I've learned? Lots of our RSE workers live on their devices. There's this thing called TikTok. And we can do better now than a piece of paper with a waxy seal. You can show your badge and drill into the skill sets and show what you've got and show that to the next employer, and they can value that. and if some of the brands in this room took the opportunity to endorse that, then we've got a product while the government gets around to doing what it needs to do in time. And us education providers will figure out how to get paid to do the assessments. We don't care. But so there is a long-term vision here in step 3, but right now we're about version 2. Many of you are growers. The next few slides I'm going to show you are wrong. They are a straw person. We wanted to come up with something based on that initial mapping, and then we wanted to ask the workers and the employers what the skills framework really needed to include, and then we'll go and map it again with the right stuff. So the next few slides, throw your tomatoes, throw your capsicums. There's someone here that grows chili peppers. I love those, so please do. A few of those up here would be fine. But I'm just going to scoot through really quickly what we've put in 5 proposed badges to keep the system simple, but also potentially provide those opportunities for progression, right? Because, of course, the majority of workers do come back and back and back. I've heard about OGs from 2007. Well, I've been going around and talking to some of the employers, but those that are here for a season or 2 or 5 or 10, they are gaining progress. We all know about the constraints around the scope of work of the visa, and there's a couple of controversial things on my list, but let's just see how we go. First one, core skills. This seems to be coming through as the most important. I'm also a really bad researcher, and I can't help tell you what some of the things I've heard so far as we've been doing the stakeholder engagement, but I'm going to finish this talk by putting up a couple of those fancy QR codes and inviting you during the network function over a cold beer to have a look and give us your opinion wearing whatever hat you're wearing. Lots of people wear more than one hat. You're allowed to do the survey over and over if you want. Core skills. Just have a look at what's on the screen there. There's a few things people have told us like, what do you mean by that? Whose cultural fluency? Do you mean theirs or do you mean the employers? We are hearing lots of wonderful stories about employers who make sure that the culture that RSE workers arrive into is familiar and supportive to them. They are living and working in a different country. But we have also heard from Pacific stakeholders saying, our guys want to know the do's and don'ts before they arrive. They really want to know that stuff. So we've got a few things there that are about them and about life skills and about communication. And you know, our survey will ask you how important you think these things are, if you think we need to reword any of them, if you think we need to remove any of them, if any of the things on this list would mean that no one can get this badge, because the core skills one in particular should be able to be achieved by any RSE worker, even if they're only here one season. They should at least be able to have a decent crack at it. Number 2 is horticultural knowledge. What do they need to know and understand? This isn't the skills to execute, but what do they need to know about? There's a few things missing on this one, and I won't preempt that, but we're getting a few suggestions coming through. The other thing we're hearing is, wait a minute, it depends if they're winter cohort or summer cohort or if they're in the pack house. So spoiler alert, worst researcher ever. This one and the next badge, we think knowledge and skills ones need to be split out into those cohorts so that people that are here seasonally can achieve a badge that relates to that season. You might come back for multiple seasons. You might, in the course of several seasons, get to visit different parts of the industry and different parts of the season and the cycle of the, growing, picking, pruning and packing. But we want to make sure people can achieve these things, so we know that there are differences, obviously, depending on their role. But that's what we've got as the underpinning skills. So again, how important? Are these accurate? What's missing? What doesn't make sense? Number 3, there's a controversial one on here. Anyone want to choose which one it is? We heard about it before, I think, from the capsicum person. I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but I know she grows capsicums and some of her guys are driving forklifts. The Pacific stakeholders are telling us they want to learn that stuff, and obviously that's a great skill that they can take back to their home island and say that they have. We know that with some of the specialist machinery, we're talking special licenses and stuff, and we also know with the scope of the visa, they're not supposed to be doing it. So I'll just do an impression of a couple of the interviews I've had. Are they driving tractors? No. Digital badge number 4, this is also file under. Some of them would get to do this, not all of them would get to do this. It's not necessarily the idea that every RSE worker would achieve the whole set of 5, But there is technology stuff, and this is coming from Pacific Voices as well, as around we want to know what's next, we want to know what's coming, what is the new technology, actually what can we learn digitally before we arrive. We're working, closely with people like the Whalia Lily Group, Putasi Development Trust, who a lot of people point to as gold standard from the Samoan perspective, and we're hearing from a lot of them that with the 7 months in New Zealand, but given a lot of the workers are wanting to come back again, what can we be usefully doing in that 5 months before they come back again? Because actually the aspiration is to come back. Let's be useful in the after and the before and the during. So it is that building up process and there's opportunities to progress. So some of these things we know the team leaders and supervisors do, but maybe not everybody or maybe not even most. But that's cool. We'll have a think about what we should put in, or should we have a technology systems badge. Last one, which is number 5, actually is looking like about number 2 on the charts. Rules and regulations. What are the rules of the game? Are there some really important things that you need to know legally? Again, one of the things that's coming through interestingly there, I think we're talking about New Zealand employment law. People are like, no, let's give us a bit of a 101 on the law of the land more generally than that. There's perhaps a more basic level involved as well. Those are the 5. I've got 4 minutes left. That's tremendous. I was really worried. But I have spoken quite quickly, and I've lost my notes entirely. Okay, feedback, welcome. Right, Pacific Voices. When Kate Scott presented after lunch, I saw a lot of very familiar quotes from the voices of Pacific workers that have also been coming through our survey. We've got 43 responses so far, and after the networking function tonight, that'll be about 85. They do want to know the do's and don'ts and want to prepare before they come. What some of the RSE coordinators in the sending countries have told us is if we had this framework, this tells, they can show a new one, this is your purpose, this is what you're going to get, this is the sort of thing that can be covered. So for them it becomes a bit of a curriculum to align the training and the preparation in some of the camps and what can happen before coming on RSE. But the most vivid and most daunting quote that I have been getting from the Pacific stakeholders is don't let this come to nothing. This is needed, we are hungry for this. I think of Tupai Peter Pealua from Samoa Qualifications Authority, who says, that skills dividend is really important. We know that New Zealand is the best in the world at horticulture. We want to bring that knowledge back into the islands. There is an elephant in that room. The logo's on slide 1. Muka Tangata is closing up at the end of the year and turning into an industry skills board. And Food and Fibre Cove, who I gratefully acknowledge for having paid for this research, is also switching off the lights at the end of this year, all part of vocational education system changes in New Zealand. However, there is NZQA, there is that wider qualifications recognition process, and my working theory is that if we can genuinely and inclusively capture the voices of workers and employers and have the industry get in behind the system of badges, that we can marginalise the changes in government and vocational systems and actually make sure this doesn't come to nothing and make this baby so beautiful that somebody just has to adopt it. Okay, so thank you again. The middle QR code is to the online survey. The last thing I want to talk about is that on the right, along with, and I really want to genuinely acknowledge Sandy Scarrow from Fruition Horticulture, who's been supporting us with the employer engagement here in New Zealand, Whaavai Gangamoy from Tamarix Group and Putasi Development Trust, who's on the ground in Samoa, sending me pictures every day of the camp and the groups of 80 that he's talking to. And again, also I want Alison Dittmer-Crode and Terry Neal from NZQA, who've worked respectively with stakeholders on the ground in Vanuatu and Tuvalu. But yeah, that's where we're at. Look, ultimately, I think the opportunity here is for industry or its collectives to stand behind the badges with vocational education going through another round of changes. Industry itself is the stable force that could mean this doesn't just come to nothing. Thank you.